the biggest advantage to remote viewing is the secrecy. It's the fact that people doubt that this is a real phenomenon that allows companies and government organizations to capitalize on this technology against those people who deny that it exists. So, private institutions, corporations, governments, their biggest friend are the skeptics who deny that these things happen, because when you deny that it happens, you become vulnerable to these types of people, remote viewers, who are then able to gather data on you. Amazingly, even in 2020, there are a lot of people who make the claim that paranormal things do not exist, and it's an across-the-board statement. Oftentimes, this is people who are nonetheless very smart and well-educated, and maybe are self-described materialists, people who believe that because everything comes from the brain, nothing can possibly exist outside of brain chemistry. Consciousness has no role in existence besides a kind of accidental thing that we evolved. And this society-based programming is so pervasive that even when being introduced to direct evidence, people still dismiss anything that is contrary to this belief system. So I'm hoping you will share this video with your friends and people who make the claim that paranormal things do not exist, because the subject of remote viewing unequivocally demonstrates a paranormal phenomenon that happens and is extremely useful. So we're going to take a look at that tonight, in particular the work of the Far Sight Institute, and show you a little bit how remote viewing works and how you can demonstrate this as a paranormal phenomenon pretty much through controlled conditions, blinded studies, and you can watch it on video, and it leaves no room for doubt unless you want to go into the territory of people making things up, which I call the skeptic's last resort. Maybe we'll talk about that a bit as well. Of course, on this channel, Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics, we're not about trying to prove the paranormal. We come at this from understanding all these things already exist. People who have done the research and are now attempting to make sense of reality after putting together all of the pieces of the puzzle, or at least attempting to put those pieces of the puzzle together to make an image that kind of fits. And that's what we do on this channel. So normally this is not a channel for that endless dog chasing its own tail debate of, is the paranormal real? Is the paranormal not real? That's not what we do here, but I'm hoping that this video will be of benefit to those of you who are on the periphery or on the edge of the fence and you're looking in, but you've been getting heaping spoonfuls of BS from your friends and colleagues who make claims like the paranormal doesn't happen, it's all wishful thinking, etc., etc. So let's move into the video now, but before we continue, please go down and hit that subscribe button, and like the video, share the video, hit that notification bell. Really helps keep the channel going. And if you agree with this message, hit the like button, and if you disagree with it and you think all paranormal things are fake, well, hit the dislike button so we can see how many of you out there are still thinking along these terms. So to continue. Remote viewing is typically done under blinded conditions. The way remote viewing works is that a operator, for lack of a better term, puts down a series of numbers after focusing or creating an intended target, and then the remote viewer basically uses their consciousness to obtain information about the target using only a string of numbers. So it may be a 6-digit string of numbers. The point is that the remote viewer has no idea what the target is. So this is done under blinded conditions. So the next big principle for remote viewing is cross-corroboration. So it's one thing if one person happens to get good information about something. It's not quite scientifically detailed enough to say that this is definitely something that is way beyond the realm of statistics. Typically, there'll be a team of 3 to 4 remote viewers, and what happens is that they all work independently. Nobody knows, obviously, nobody knows what the target is. Nobody is in communication with one another. Do their best as remote viewers, usually with a board that they board with markers, just like in any normal school, any teacher would use, and they practice their skill. Now, a talented remote viewer has the ability to displace their consciousness, to put it into a different location, independent of location, time, space. They can put their consciousness everywhere because we know consciousness is omnidimensional. It's not bound by any of those things. This is, of course, kind of metaphysics 101 when you explore the nature of consciousness or near-death studies and these sort of topics. So that's established. So because of this, you can target anything. You could target a galaxy a million light years away, a billion years ago. It doesn't matter. Anywhere, anytime, any place. And then the idea is that everybody corroborates the information, and it's all put together, and then you form a bigger picture. Of course, the really important point is that this can be used very practically. There's information out there. There's one guy who used to work for both the government and private institutions named John Vivanco. It's Vivanco. He actually has a lot of content these days on YouTube, and very interesting stuff, and he has some books out there as well. And that he chronicles his time working in the private remote viewing industry, because private companies know this stuff is extremely profitable because it is shockingly accurate, as you will see in this video. Shockingly accurate. And this includes getting information about rival companies, competitor companies, even getting specific detailed items, such as what is the secret, where are they keeping the secret files, that kind of stuff. You can find this with remote viewers. They can also solve criminal cases. They can locate missing bodies, all types of things. In fact, very often I think a lot of the psychic mediums who are finding bodies and things like that, they may be working with deceased individuals, but they may also simply be using a kind of remote viewing themselves to pinpoint where things are. And of course, we can dig deeper. The CIA takes remote viewing very seriously, and Jimmy Carter, I think it was Ronald Reagan, testified basically about the accuracy of remote viewing. I'm probably mixing those two presidents up, but they were looking for a downed spy plane in the Soviet Union, and they used remote viewers, and they found the coordinates of the plane, and it worked. So there was all kinds of information about this, but what we're going to look at is the Farsight Institute. This institute has been around for quite a while now, but they do a lot of private remote viewing sessions to find the answers to many great mysteries of life. And there's a lot of wild, trippy stuff out there, like Venus, if Venus was populated by an extraterrestrial race like 1 billion years ago, and spoiler, it was. So they go into a lot of kind of wild, crazy stuff, but we're going to look at the more down-to-earth stuff. So we're going to take a quick look at this channel, and this is a remote viewing project about Napoleon's last stand. So this was Napoleon's final battle, and they wanted to get into the mind of Napoleon, and also basically to identify what was going on during the battle. And of course, I'm just going to play the video, and this is a couple minutes of the Farsight channel, so you can check the channel yourself out on YouTube. So we're just going to play a couple of minutes of it and then analyze it. So let's take a look.
So, what of this man, Napoleon? What kind of a guy was he? Was he a genius or a madman? We have so many historical accounts, but what would we find out if we sent some of the best remote viewers back in time to find him alive and fighting during his final battle at Waterloo, and then to enter his mind to see what makes him tick? So that is what we did. The remote viewers are Kamaya Dunson, Melina Hall, and Aziz Brown. Now, done under totally blind conditions and with no communication between the remote viewers, here is what they perceived during the Battle of Waterloo.
So we're just going to look at Kamiya's remote viewing session. Of course, you can watch the whole video on the YouTube channel, and the name of the video is Napoleon at Waterloo, April 2019, Time Cross Farsight. And spoiler alert, as usual, multiple remote viewers in isolation from one another. basically coming up with the same or similar information, just beyond the realm of any kind of chance.
Today we'll be exploring target 80738426.
So up there on the top right of the screen, you'll see the numbers, and that is what I described earlier as a random series of numbers that represents the target. The remote viewers have no idea what they're remote viewing. So let's keep watching.
Have a base surface here with level topography. It feels really natural here, but also a little bit urban. I see like structures here as well, but this is not a city. So here I have these two main structures and then other surrounding structures on my flat land.
So what's interesting about this is, look, she's getting impressions that oftentimes is not even done in a intangible way. It's not like she sees visions as much as she gets feelings, she gets information, she gets data, basically a telepathic sense, and she's attempting to piece that data together using a visual medium. And what you'll see in this video is that things start off, and this is something you see a lot, things begin a bit vague, a little bit like difficult to piece together. Then as things go along, it starts to narrow in on exactly what's happening. So you can watch, and I'll probably skip ahead a little bit so you can see how this evolves.
I'm picking up a lot of subjects here, and they feel all male. They feel very masculine.
So that's the first key that we're getting. So again, this is the Battle of Waterloo, picking up a lot of subjects. So she's getting the first direct hit of evidence, which is that they're all male. Okay, so you're not going to find women on the battlefield.
It's really loud here. I hear just a lot of talking, shouting, roaring, booming. It just sounds very chaotic. And then I also smell a lot of man-made things and hear a lot of just man-made noise as well.
Noisy, chaotic, all men, semi-urban environment, which means basically ruins. It's sort of the conclusion that she makes, or it's like all filled with smoke, or basically it continues like this. So I'm going to skip ahead to as she continues along, honing in on exactly what's going on. So now she has a lot of chaos, all the squiggly lines, there's all this kinetic energy and stuff happening. She actually began putting down bullets, and so these are those little black dots. She's like, there's these round pellet-like objects that are being like shot between people.
It's burning. It kind of like there's smoke or something in the air, here. And my chest feels like a little heavy, and so does my back. It kind of feels like I'm being crushed or like impacted right here in my chest area. It's like so much is happening right now. It feels like a war. People running everywhere.
So now, she just identified it. She said it feels like there's a war happening, people running everywhere. Again, random string of numbers with the impression of the Battle of Waterloo. And by this point in the remote viewing session, it's like she's pretty much has nailed it.
All I can feel is like feelings of like worry or like just being overwhelmed. I feel very overwhelmed here. And I just hear people screaming. I can hear people yelling. God, I'm trying to hear through all the noise. I just see people. It looks like someone's like falling from the sky. It looks like people are literally like flying through the air almost.
I thought this was interesting. I was trying to figure out like what she meant by people falling or flying through the air, and I don't know the extent of explosives back then. I mean, this is the 1815, so probably pretty. I mean, I don't know much about what warfare was like back then, but probably there were some, cannon fire and just causing people to, shoot through the air after being blown up. Like people just flying through the air after getting, a hit by a cannon or an explosive round or something like this.
Almost. Now I'm going to go 24 hours back and forward in time.
So real quick, so she checks 24 hours backward, 24 hours ahead, and pretty much accurate. 24 hours before, there wasn't much happening. The battle hadn't begun yet. 24 hours ahead, it was just like the ruins of what had just happened. And then if we go ahead a little bit, she actually, the next point is the target, which is Napoleon himself, to try to understand his attitude. And she basically, she kind of draws like a guy with a kind of a square, round face, short brown hair, smells kind of bad, and has a lot of sort of royal clothing on, or is like thickly dressed. So she narrows all of this down, and also narrows down his attitude, a lot of fear. His mind is all over the place because, this was his final battle, and so he was like on the verge of going mad, and that's what she discovers. Looking into his mind, which remote viewers can also do. They can look into someone's mind and discover, what they were thinking and what their thoughts, feelings, and emotions were. Just going off of the vibration, telepathic, omnidimensional communication, which we know is the natural method of communication in the universe, right? So this is just the natural thing, really. Remote viewers are doing what all people have this ability to, but it's been suppressed from us, basically. So again, it's just it's very very accurate, and then we can go into the other remote viewers in the same video, and they start putting in actual illustrations of like the people and what's going on, the horses, the French cavalry uniforms, crazy stuff like that. And that's just one example of remote viewing. And again, so it's done under blinded conditions. There is no statistical chance that this type of thing could happen because of people guessing or anything like that. There is no statistical possibility of anything short of either a paranormal phenomenon or some kind of fraud. And so this is Cyrus's rule of skepticism, which is that when all possibilities are eliminated to disprove a subject, to resort to conspiracy theories and allegations of fraud. So when a skeptic has run out of ideas about how to disprove these types of things, they will begin accusing the whole operation of being a sham because they're stumped. And we know that this explanation doesn't go very far, because in this type of subject, if you do cursory research, you'll find that it actually works. So the information they get is accurate and it's proven to be usable. Why does Uri Geller, and yes, Uri Geller, the same guy who was called out by James Randi on The Tonight Show, and I will do a video about James Randi coming up real soon. And yes, obviously he was psychically cooking the books, cheating, finding a way to, probably maybe before he had any kind of real ability, just wanting to cash in on the whole being psychic or having psychic power thing, and he was caught cheating, basically. But why does he live in like an incredible celebrity film star mansion? And the reason is that he went into the private world of remote viewing, and it's extremely profitable to be a remote viewer. And Pavanko talks about this, very profitable, because you have, if you build a remote viewing firm, you can, like I said, there's very few secrets that can be kept from you and your team. And the biggest, let me make a really important point here. The biggest advantage to remote viewing is the secrecy. It's the fact that people doubt that this is a real phenomenon, that allows companies and government organizations to capitalize on this technology against those people who deny that it exists. So private institutions, corporations, governments, their biggest friend are the skeptics who deny that these things happen, because when you deny that it happens, you become vulnerable to these types of people, remote viewers, who are then able to gather data on you, and then whoever hires the remote viewers can use that against you if they so desire. Now, a company that is privy to this knowledge, they may even be able to, I don't know how, but maybe there is some kind of a equally metaphysical explanation about how you might be able to create like a psychic defense system against remote viewers. I've heard that certain top secret areas of the government have implemented these types of things. That's a whole different subject. But the point is that the secrecy is what they use to allow this type of technology to be so successful. And so the people who keep their heads buried in the sand, the materialists, the useful idiots, they are doing a huge favor to the people who use this type of technology to their advantage. So I'm hoping that you can maybe use this information, at least when you get confronted by people who claim that there's no such thing as paranormal phenomena. We know that this is not true. It can be demonstrated very easily in blinded conditions of how the mind operates. And it really is the silliest thing that I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of silly things in my life. I've been to a lot of countries, and I've been involved in many projects and met many people. And probably the silliest thing of all is the perpetual argument between materialists and dualists and panpsychics and panpsychists and all this whole thing, because there is nothing to debate. It's self-evident that the mind has powers that exceeds basic neurological function. It's self-evident, highly replicated, highly reproducible, and you can use it in practical methods to obtain information and all of these types of things. And yet it's the stupidity of the modern age that the people who implement this technology use to be able to have an advantage over everybody else. And that's something to remember and to think about, especially when we consider the modern world and how I think so many people are exploited in so many ways. So you can check out the Farsight Institute channel. I'll put the link to this video in the description down below. And you can also get involved in this channel. You can grab a book like Understanding Life After Death or the Afterlife and Beyond, where we take things way beyond just a subject of whether paranormal stuff happens or whether materialism is bunk or not. And we explore specifically, where do we go when we die? What is the afterlife like? And what conditions await all of us? And usually it's pretty good stuff. It's not, it's stuff to look forward to for the most part. And that's what we discuss here on this channel. And you can also get involved on the Patreon, patreon.com/afterlife topics. So members at $30 and up immediately have access to me if you want a one-on-one consultation about initiating out-of-body experiences and other topics, and joining the VIP classes. So that's about it for this video. I'll see you guys real soon, and hopefully this video helped clarify any lingering doubts about the reality of what we talk about.